Welcome to She Sells Radio. All right, my friend, I am coming in hot and heavy with you tonight, today, this morning, whenever you are listening to this, to talk with you about how to close more sales. And the topic for this week was inspired by this challenge that we just hosted. So as I record this, we are wrapping up a week-long challenge that we did with a group of amazing women, almost 200 women in sales, female entrepreneurs, financial services, came in and did this challenge with me on how to grow their sales. And one of the things I heard over and over and over again from the women in this challenge was that there were two areas they felt like they struggled the most with their sales process. And one was prospecting and lead generation, and another was closing. And so I thought, you know what, we need to do more content related to these things. And so you're still going to be getting all the good wealth consciousness, all the good mindset stuff for me, but we're also going to do some really deep dives here in the podcast and then on Instagram lives. If you follow my lives there, or I shouldn't say just Instagram lives, they're everywhere, right? Every morning at 8:30 Eastern, you can join me live, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. But we're going to be shifting some of our content to be more tactical because I'm hearing that that's what you need right now. And I aim to please. So here we go. And I also want to say there's a lot of stuff in here you're probably going to want to take notes on. This is from years and years and years of me studying great closers, learning from the best, polishing my skill set there. It's something that I used to feel like I struggled with. And now I actually love closing. It's one of my favorite parts of the sales process. It feels easy. And it didn't always feel that way. I will tell you right up front, it used to be the part that I dreaded more than anything. And so if that's you right now, I get it. I'm with you. And I want to invite you to really shift your mindset and your mentality there because, and I'll even just start with, this is kind of where I wanted to begin. I'm going to be sharing some mindset and some tactical pieces today when it comes to closing. I've got roughly 3 mindset, roughly 5 tactical. But the first, I think it just makes sense to start off with the mindset piece around closing. And I think the most important thing that is not talked about a lot, but is the mindset of a great closer, is that you have to genuinely love people. You must genuinely love people and care about their best interest. And my guess is that that flies in the face of how if you have any sort of hesitation around closing, you probably feel like you can't both love on people, take care of them, and close, right? Because we get that weird connotation in our mind of the sleazy salesperson, the gross sales techniques, and we can, for some reason, many people equate closing with that energy. And that's not it at all. And I know if you're listening to this podcast, you have a big heart and you want to close more sales and you want to help people and you want to make more money, right? And all of those things, they are not mutually exclusive. All of those things describe me. All of those things probably describe you as well. And so part of what can make us great, part of what, in my opinion, creates a great closer is someone who does genuinely love people and care about their best interest. And here's how I think about selling. And this is a great quote from, I heard it from Bob Proctor. I don't know where he got it originally, or it may be his, but he says, selling isn't something you do to someone. It's something you do for someone. So I want you to write that down. Selling isn't something you do to someone. It's something you do for someone. Because at the end of the day, people love to buy things, right? I love to buy things. It's human nature. We enjoy it. And if you look around your home, like as I look around right now at my office, so much of what's in here, it's not stuff that was like make or break. If I didn't buy it, my life was going to fall apart. It was like, no, I really want these things. I desire them. And my life is better because of the computer, because of the sales books, because of the crystals, right? I always equate She Sells to like crystals in one hand and a sales planner in the other, right? But those things are what make me feel good and feel better, and I enjoy them. And whatever you are selling, it's something that's going to enhance somebody else's life. And if it's not, then stop selling it. Okay. But you want to think about it that way. You are doing it for someone. And I think something that's important to keep in mind is that about 93% of all communication is nonverbal. So you can say the right words all day long. You can say, I really care about you. You can say, I want the best for you. But if your energy is, I need this sale to pay my mortgage, or if your energy is, no, I actually don't care about you, I care about your money, people will pick up on that. They will. And there will just be something about you that they don't quite trust, and they won't be able to put their finger on it, and they won't want to move forward. So you want to genuinely love on people and want the best for them. And I don't think that's most likely your problem. If you're listening to this podcast, I don't think that's your problem. I think part of the problem might be you think you can't do that and close a lot of sales. But it's one and the same when you realize that selling is something you do for someone, closing is something you do for someone to help them take action in favor of their highest good and get what they want that's going to enhance their life. So it's a true service. The second mindset piece is to have an abundance mindset. This is so critically important. Now, I will say this, almost everyone I serve, man, woman, whoever, I don't care, comes from some sort of scarcity mindset conditioning. And it's so common. It was my conditioning. It's, I think, the conditioning for most people across the world that there's not enough, that we have to compete, that if you don't close the sale right now, you're never going to have another one, right? And I want to encourage you to really study a few things. One is to learn how money actually works energetically. That was a huge shift for me that helped create an abundance mindset. Which when I did this, when I started learning how money works energetically, and I'm not going to go into it a ton on today's episode. I've got other podcast episodes on it, and I've got trainings on it in my membership. She Sells All Access. But when you understand that, and you understand money is just energy, and that there's an abundance of money, there's an unlimited supply of money. We literally print more money when we need it as a culture and as a society. We can relax a bit, because when you learn how to match the frequency of the amount of money you want to bring in, it must come to you. It must. And I shared, a cool story at the end of the challenge. We had one of the women from the 10K club come in and talk about her journey of, coming into the program. And the intention of the program is for the women in there to hit a 10K month in 90 days or less. Now, this woman came in and generated $270,000 in 90 days. And the money came in from different channels, though, which was part of what was cool and part of why we want to understand how money works at an energetic level. That and this woman had done so much inner work, so much energy work on herself, and she was offering a phenomenal new program to her marketplace. But she had done that work so that she was showing up at such a high frequency herself that money just poured in from all of these different avenues. Part of it was her program that she had launched. Part of it was the sale of some other things. Part of it was, there was a number of different ways that came in, but it ended up being $270,000 in 90 days. And so you want to understand that money can come from multiple channels. And so with that being said, you get to relax a bit about how it's going to come in. You also get to care about what, but not how. And this was transformational for me in sales. And I learned this originally from one of my mentors, Gina DeVee, and it made such a big difference for me, because coming up in corporate sales, I would have leaders who would literally stand at the whiteboard. I used to go out and do in-person sales calls for a number of different products I sold. And I remember having, leaders who would stand at the whiteboard as I came back in and wait to write down a number when I'd been on a sales call with someone. And if I didn't have a sale, and I was the top producer in my office, in most offices I was in. So it wasn't that I was like slacking, but if I didn't have a sale from that sales call, I remember the look they would give me and the shame that I would feel and the embarrassment and the, oh my gosh, I should have done better. Like I should have sold them. And here's what I want to encourage you with. My belief that has actually helped me create way more sales has been to care about what, but not how. And we can even, we can extend that a bit to say what, but not how or who. And so the way that I think about sales now is I have a number every month that I'm going for. And I am fiercely committed to that number because I also understand money. I understand that money needs to have a purpose. So there's always a purpose behind the financial amount that I'm going for in my sales every month. But I'm not attached to who buys from me and who doesn't. And you're going to hear conflicting advice from people on this. You're going to hear some people say, beat them over the head until they say yes. You'll hear some people say, I'm not going to stop following up until one of us is dead. And now I think, and there's some humor to that, and there's some value to that in that, there's AJ Baden on episode 86 of the podcast shared this really great philosophy that I love. And she's one of my dear friends. She's been one of my business mentors, business partners for a long time. Her mindset, and she's $1 million producer, her mindset is, it's not a matter of if someone becomes my client, it's a matter of when. And so I do want to say with all of this, this is not about someone saying no one time and then you disappear and you never follow up with them again. That's not what I'm saying. Most follow-ups, like most sales, take anywhere from 6 to 10 follow-ups. So I'm not saying that you don't follow up, but what I am saying is that you don't get this is the language of showing your pants so twisted about someone having to buy from you right this moment or else. And that's part of why it's so important to have an abundance mindset. Because how often have you, been in the buying process of something and you were pretty open to buying, like you were excited about what you were going to buy, you were ready to buy, but you had a salesperson who you could tell was just like dying to get that commission and was so pushy and was so hardcore and so like, oh my gosh, if you don't buy this right now, then your whole world's going to fall apart. And that is like, I will never tell you to do that. I will never tell you to do that. I think you will turn away people. I think you will lose sales. I think it's a gross way of closing. And so I personally am a fan of really being present with people to hear what they need, to have the skill set, the tactical skill set that we're going to talk about next, to help them arrive at a yes, if that's the right decision for them. And to know that to know when it's not the right time for someone. I encounter women and men, because I have some private coaching clients who I work with who are men, but I encounter people all the time where I can just tell it's like, it's not the right fit for this point in time. And I don't mind telling people that, because closing is not twisting every single person's arm to buy from you. And that's part of why we want to have a full pipeline and be consistently prospecting, showing up, generating leads. Because when you've got that full pipeline, we can sit back and relax a bit. You don't feel like every single person has to buy from you. And I love, and I didn't write down the episode number before getting into this podcast, because a lot of times I kind of like riff from the heart when I come and record a solo episode. But I remember Holly Martin came on, I don't know, it's probably in the 60s or 70s in terms of episode numbers. And she's a top producer in a direct sales company. And her approach to offering her services, she compared it to having a pack of gum with 3 sticks in it. And, she kind of compared it to when you're at a dinner party and it's after dinner, you want some gum. So you pull it out and you take the stick of gum for yourself. And then you just offer it to the other people who are around you. Hey, do you want a stick of gum? You said to the first person, they're like, actually, I'm good. I don't chew gum. Okay, great. No problem. Next person, do you want some gum? Oh, you know what? I actually just had a breath mint, so I'm good. Thank you. Third person, hey, do you want some gum? Oh my gosh, I was wanting gum right now. I'm so glad you offered. Thank you. Yes. And it's that mindset that I think helps us have such an abundance mentality and easy energy when we go into closing to help make the whole process feel better for you and for other people, okay? And for your prospects. And when you have that energy with it, and you're not pushing and you're not hard closing people, you're merely really showing up in service to them, then they're going to remember that, even if it's not now. Like, even if right now, let's say they just had gum and they're like, I'm actually really good, I just had some, but thank you so much. They're going to remember the next time they want some, they're going to remember how kind you were to offer and your energy in offering, and they're going to want to have it from you. That was a very, very long gum analogy, but you understand what I'm saying. So those were your, I would say your mindset pieces. So one, genuinely love people, care about their best interest. Number two, have an abundance mindset. And it's actually more like two mindset pieces I kind of looped in. The third piece was it's not a matter of if someone becomes your client, it's a matter of when, but I kind of looped that in with number two. They're under mindset. So there you go. Okay, tactically. Tactically, quick water break. And then I want to share with you, I've got these 5 closing tactics / techniques that I think are going to be really important for you. Okay, so the first one, and this is it's kind of mindset, but it's also tactical. Understand what closing actually is. You want to understand what closing actually is, which is, in my opinion, helping someone come to a decision in favor of their highest good. Helping someone come to a decision in favor of their highest good. Now, that decision, kind of looping in with what we just talked about with mindset, that may be a yes and that may be a no right now. And either one of those is fine. But the one part that we want to help people get out of is indecision, because indecision is a habit for people. Indecision is a decision as well. And when you're committed to your client's highest good, that's also a commitment to helping them make a decision and get off the fence. We've all been there, right? When you're kind of in between on two things and it feels yucky, it feels uncomfortable, and it feels kind of like it's just no man's land. So really successful people get in the habit of making decisions, and making decisions quickly, and making decisions in favor of their highest good. And so when we're in sales, part of this is, not only do you need to be good at helping people make a decision, you also need to be good at making decisions. And one of the things I learned from, I mentioned my mentor Gina earlier in this podcast, because she was, I think, one of the first people who helped me learn sales from a more feminine approach, which felt so much better. But what she shared that really stuck with me was, the objections you get from your prospects are really just mirrors of your own objections in life. So whatever, like if you're getting a lot of objections from prospects on, it's too much money, I can't afford it, you need to really look at your own life, at where you're using that as an excuse for not being able to take action. Or it's procrastination, or people ghosting, and then are you ghosting, right? So all of your prospects are just mirrors of you as well. And so really look at, are you a decisive person? Where can you become more decisive in your life? And then get really committed to helping your prospects make decisions as well. And so the rest of the tactics that I share here are going to be helpful for that as well. But that's really what it is. It's just helping someone come to a decision in favor of their highest good. And note, I didn't say in favor of the status quo, because no one is buying something to try to stay where they are. People are buying things to try to solve a problem or reach a greater degree of pleasure in their life. And so no one is buying things because they want to stay where they are. They're buying things because they want something better. They're buying things because they want to fix a problem or grow. So in favor of their highest good and their highest self. And that's something that when I'm talking with my applicants for the 10K club, because it is a high ticket program. And so it's not a $500 program. And so there can be it's a decision. It's a financial investment for them. We look at it through the lens of, for the woman who has what they want, how does she make that decision? What would she do? Because that's how, especially for those of you who are listening, who are in coaching or any sort of life improvement industry, when you can help people frame the decision in terms of, well, what would the person who already has what they want, what would they do? then it's a little bit easier for them to say, yeah, you know what? People do. Like I've learned that I need to invest 5 to 10% of the amount of money I want to make in coaching. So actually, if I want to make, $100,000 this year, I should plan to invest $5 to $10,000 this year. If I want to make $1,000,000 this year, I should plan to invest $50 to $100,000 this year. So it's that type of a shift that can help people make that decision. The second part tactically is truly listening and doing it in the energy of the lean back. And I love this because I used to really come into sales calls with a feeling of pressure on myself that I had to quote unquote make someone buy. And I want you to just check in right now. Is that your energy when you're on your sales calls, that I've got to make someone buy? I've got to get this person to buy from me? Because again, they can feel it from you, and that's going to turn them off. So I want you to start physically leaning back in your seat, or if you do sales calls standing, which I do, anything that really matters energetically, I do standing. So I record podcasts standing, I do sales calls standing, I do presentation standing, but it's like a lean back, even when you're standing, right? Energetically, where not only are they evaluating you and your services to see if it's a good fit, but you're leaning back and you're deciding, are they a good fit for me as a client? Do I want to work with this person? And I know when I myself was in scarcity mindset for many years, because I didn't understand how money works, I felt like I had to take on anyone and everyone as my client. And I had a lot of clients at that time in my life who were really energy draining, really needy, terrible about making payments, didn't respect me, didn't respect my time. But I thought I had to deal with it. I thought I had to put up with it because I didn't know all this other stuff we're talking about here that I've learned over the years. So when you have this mindset, when you come to closing from that abundance mentality and from the mindset of, look, at some point, the people who I really want to work with are going to become my clients. So I'm not worried about when, and I'm going to keep showing value and keep adding value and keep showing up, and keep urging them to make that decision in favor of their highest good. Like, you get to lean back and evaluate and really listen and listen beneath what they're saying to hear what they're really saying. And this is something that I encourage, especially my clients who are coaches, is to feel empowered to say what you're really thinking on the sales call. I have given myself permission to just work very intuitively, both with my clients who are paying me for coaching, as well as on sales calls. And that's part of, for if I have probably mostly female listeners, so especially for my women who are listening right now, and shout out to the men too. So whoever you are listening, I love you. I'm glad you're here. But with women in particular, that's something I teach them to do, is reconnecting with that feminine intuition, where if something is showing up for you that the client's just not saying, but you're hearing that, like, I will hear my clients underneath the surface, they'll be saying like, well, I made this investment and this thing didn't happen before, yada, yada. And what I'll hear them say is like, I didn't put myself all in to the last thing I invested in. And I don't know that I'm going to do it this time either. And I'm scared to invest money and not get the result I'm looking for. And I'll just tell them, like, I'll ask them, I'll say, I'm hearing something in what you're saying. Do I have your permission to share what's showing up for me and see if this resonates for you or not? See if this actually feels true for you or not. So you can ask for permission to share what you're really thinking, but be bold and be direct with your prospects when you're listening and leaning back and looking for, what are they really saying? And do I want to work with this person? Like, I've gotten to a point in my career where it's like, I don't want to take a lot of BS. I don't want to take any BS from people. And I used to take a lot because I didn't respect myself, because I didn't think I could get clients. And I don't take on clients who I don't like. anymore, who I don't want to work with, who I don't think I can really help and really serve. And you get to do that too. And in fact, the sooner you do that, the sooner those dream clients are going to be showing up for you because you're putting out that higher level energy. Now, your third step here is beginning with the end in mind in each conversation. And this is so important. And this is a very tactical thing that I find most people don't do. But when you're opening up a conversation, and this is especially if you have a longer sales cycle, but it works too, even if you do like a one call close in your sales process, begin with the end in mind. So once you've established rapport and chatted with the person for a bit, I like to open it up with some sort of a some sort of a statement, kind of like, let's say I'm talking to someone named Angela, like, Angela, I'm so looking forward to getting to know you today and to talking with you and seeing if the 10K club is a good mutual fit and feels like the right move for you. And so the purpose of today's call is really to lean into that and see if this feels like the right move. And if so, at the end of this call, then we can go ahead and get you enrolled and get you set up in your program. And if not, if it doesn't feel like a good fit, that's totally fine too. My aim will be to help you arrive at the best decision for yourself by the end of this call. Does that sound fair? And is there anything else? Does that sound good to you? Is there anything else you were looking to accomplish in this call? So something like that. And then if it was a longer sales process, like let's say your sales process is 3 calls or 5 calls, just what's the next step? So what's that next step that you would be closing for at the end of the call? And then you would set the expectation at the beginning of the call for that. So let's say you're in financial services and you've got a longer sales process and you're in that first, discovery or consultation meeting. Hey, so the purpose of today's meeting is to dig in, look at your financial goals, and see what you're looking to create in your life. And as we look at this, if you feel like it makes sense for us to move forward and put together a plan for you following this meeting, then I'm more than happy to go back and do that. And we can set another time to review that together about a week from here. Does that sound good? Right. So again, take whatever your sales process is, take that process and always begin with the end in mind in every conversation. And the other kind of key thing here, this is maybe like a 3.5 under tactical. You can tell I kind of flow with it here, but this is something I also really encourage my pretty much everybody to do, is for your follow-ups, if you don't gain agreement in that meeting, and if you let's say that you're sending a proposal as part of your process, actually book another meeting with them at the end of that call. Book another meeting to review the proposal, book another meeting to discuss the next step. Don't just say like, hey, let's reconnect. I'll follow up with you in a week and see where you're at. If there's a lot of people ghosting you right now, it's probably because you're not in control of the sale and you're not continuing to set follow-up appointments along the way for people. So I would always, if it's someone I really want to work with, I will book another appointment with them. It won't just be like, hey, let's reconnect down the road. Like I'll kind of say that now, if I could go either way on working with someone. I don't really feel like pushing it. But especially if you're in sales for another company and you're like, you've got a quota and this is a really great prospect and you can help them, always book that next appointment, even for a follow-up conversation, so that you're not then like just trying to follow up and sending emails that are getting ignored. Okay. And people are ghosting you. The fourth part here is, I would not ask for the sale. So I would not, and again, this is where you're going to get different advice from me than you might get from other more hustle, push. I don't know any other way to say it. Sales trainers. And so you got to do what feels right for you. The way that I like to close is I make sure it's a must for someone before I close the sale. And what I mean by that is that people will find money for whatever is a must for them. They will. And this is, this is why even in the most impoverished communities, they find a way to get the money together for a funeral because it's a must for them. So when I'm talking with a prospect, I want to make sure that it's a must for them and that I also feel like they're a good fit for me before I start to close for the sale. Now, you'll hear people say always be closing, and you're closing from the very first, conversation. And yes, energetically you are. Like, closing really is the whole process. But what I'm saying here is closing, like actually getting the payment information, sending the contract, whatever your process is. So I like to make sure it's a must for someone before I ask for the sale, because once someone knows it's a must for them, then they're sold. It's like that. Your only job at that point is, if you need to help them find a way, help them find the finances to work with you, if that's a challenge for them. But I like to make sure it's a must. So it could be something like, all right, Diana, I'm really, really appreciating everything you've shared here in this call. And I know we just talked about how the 10K club works, and it sounds like it's going to be a really good fit. But let me just ask you, before we go any further, does this feel like a yes for you? Does this feel like a must for you on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is, I could really take it or leave it, and 10 is, no, this is a must for me? Where are you at right now? And so make sure it's a must for them before you present price in many instances, or depending on what your process is. Again, sometimes people see the price before they get on a call with you. So use your process there. But before you actually start the payment collection process, I like to make sure it's a must. And when somebody says, "Oh, this is a must for me," ask them why. Dig deeper. Why? Why is it a must for you? Because a good rule of thumb in sales is that the less you talk, the more you sell. You want them talking. So when you're talking, you're selling. Okay. But when they're talking, they're buying. And that's the power exchange. What we want is them in buying right now, right? We want them buying. We want them in that yes, like they're convincing themselves of why they need it, not you pushing it on them. So get them to say why it's a must for them. And then their why. And as you're talking throughout the call, if there are any further objections that come up, you can go back and use that language for them. And then the final part, and there's so many parts to closing here, but I just wanted to share some of my 5, well, it's really more like 8 when you add in the mindset pieces, but my favorite tips on how to become a great closer is be prepared to help people find the money to work with you. Now, this applies whether you're B2B or B2C. Okay. And I've sold across both. I've done a lot of coaching in both. Once someone has established that it's a must for them to work with you, then, I love sharing this with my clients. This is something I learned from Bob Proctor, and it's true. Like, you don't need to know where the money's going to come from until you've made a decision. And it's so true. I cannot tell you so many instances in my life where I wanted something, but not badly enough that I actually made a decision on it, and the money for it never showed up. But when you make a decision for something, like when you make a decision in favor of your highest good, and you say, you know what, I'm going for this. I don't know how, I don't know where the money's going to come from, but I'm going to do it. Then you get creative. Then you find ways for the money to show up. And that's part of, for us who are in sales, that's part of our job, is to be available to help people first make that decision. And if the decision is a yes, and they don't know where the money's going to come from, then that's part of what we've got to be available to do, is help them figure out, where is the money going to come from and what is possible for where the money could come from. So I always have a list with me when I'm on a sales call of 20 different ways that clients could find money to work with me. And it's all sorts of ways. And here's the thing. People have resources and they act like they don't. And a lot of people will starve to death while they're looking at food. Okay. So what you may find with your clients, let's say that you're selling B2C, for example, they very well and often will have money in their savings account, tens of $1,000, tens of thousands of dollars, some of them $100,000 or more, but they act like they can't touch it. And that money is their money to use for what they need, but they just don't think about it that way. Or they have credit cards that they could put something on, but they're not thinking about it. Or they have, I've got a beautiful example of a client of mine in the 10K club, and the investment for her was steep and she didn't know where it was going to come from, but she knew she had to do it. And as soon as she made the decision and said, I'm just going to find a way, she remembered that she had a small inheritance from her father that he had left her, and he had passed away maybe 6 months prior. And she said, that's exactly what this is for. And she went and she got it and she invested it in the program, and now says it's the best thing she's ever done. And so your clients, and again, I'm a big fan of, you've got to make your own money rules. So I am comfortable leveraging credit cards and leveraging debt for what I need. And that's part of what's gotten me ahead with my business and in life. And I always pay it off. Right. So I'm not a fan of like staying in debt forever and ever. But here's what I am a fan of is you making your own money rules. And just because a parent said not to use credit cards, and now you're reliving out that money rule, or your client is living out that money rule, but it's not something they've ever thought about. What do they really believe for themselves? So with all of this being said, you got to make your own money rules. You've got to respect your client's money rules. So I'm never going to push if a client has a hardcore money rule in their family that they just don't use credit cards. I'm like, cool, then that's not how it's going to work for you. So let's think about something else. Can you sell something? Can we do this? Can we do that? And there's all these different ways that they could find resources that usually they're just not thinking of. On the B2B side too, the same thing applies. So this is where you can give past case studies, past examples of how other companies had access resources in a certain way, or got a grant, or did XYZ type of loan, right? So you want to be prepared with ways that your clients could find the resources to work with you, assuming it's a must for them. And that's just part of being a great closer. And you want to be easy about it too. It's like this becomes a very personal conversation because people get very protective and very funny, especially if they feel defensive about not having the resources to invest in something they really want. And so you've got to have really clear, easy energy about this. And I compare it to, I would say it's like, when you go to the doctor and they tell you to undress, it's like they're seeing 20 naked bodies a day. And it's that energy where it's like, it's not a big deal for them. We have to, at this point, as professional, that's a really weird analogy, but as professional salespeople, have that type of energy of like, I do this all day long. This is part of my job now, is to help you. Now that you've said this is a must for you, and this is why, what my role is next is to help you look at how this is possible if we need to do that. So would that be helpful? And just, there you go. It's like that simple. So that's it, my friend. And again, major shout out to my mentors who I've learned so much of this from, my coaches, because it really, learning to sell this way really changed the game for me, because I found that for many years, and this is where a lot of my clients are too, I felt like I could be successful in sales and I could make the money and I could make the sales, but it felt so out of alignment the way I was being taught to do it, that when I found this other approach that felt more aligned, that felt not softer, but more, just more aligned, like more compassionate, more relational, I actually made way more sales. And it was like a relief, a breath of fresh air of, oh my gosh, like, yeah, not only can I sell and not feel gross, but I can do it in a way that feels good and that closes more sales and helps me, love on people along the way and not leave a bunch of people resenting me for how I tried to hard close them when they weren't ready for it. So there you go, my friend. Those are your tips on how to close more sales, how to be a great closer. I hope this helped you. I hope this served you, and send me a DM. We've actually got an awesome training I did on 5 sales scripts to help you close 50% more sales. So if you want that training, just shoot me a DM. I'm at Elyse Archer on wherever your favorite platform is: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Shoot me a DM, ask for it. Someone on my team will get it right over to you. It's a free training that I did, and I think it's pretty helpful. I think it'll be pretty helpful for you. So ask for it, check it out. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful for you. And please do like DM me, send me a message, let me know what other tactical elements of the sales process would you like some more help with. You can ask for help with any part, frankly, but is there a certain part of the process that feels challenging that you want some more help with, some more content around? Is there something around time management? What is it? I'm here to help. I really, really care about serving you with this content. And I'm grateful for you. And I truly hope these tips helped you today. So wishing you a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in. And I will see you next week for our next episode. Bye for now.